By 2022, the average cable bill in America had climbed past $100 a month. So millions of people did the obvious thing. They canceled. Then, in 2024, the streaming services that replaced it quietly passed the cable package they were built to beat. For the first time, cutting the cord cost more than keeping it. The strange part is why. Because the screen those bills paid for went the opposite direction, and the gap between the two explains almost everything. Start with the television itself. In 1964, a color set cost around $750. At the wages of the time, that was more than 7 weeks of work for an ordinary earner. 7 weeks for one appliance. Today, a larger, sharper set sells for a few $100s, which at today's wages is closer to a day or two of work. The box on the wall went from something a family saved for and kept for a decade, to something bought on a whim and thrown out when the picture cracks. On its own, that is one of the clearest cases of a thing getting cheaper that you will ever find. But the set was never really the cost. What costs money is having something to watch on it. And that number has been traveling the other way for just as long. The reason the set got cheap is not mysterious. A television is a manufactured thing, and manufactured things fall to the machines that make them. Screens that were once hand-tuned glass tubes became flat panels stamped out by the millions in enormous factories, first in Japan, then Korea, then across Asia. The American makers did not survive it. Zenith, the last major American television company, lost control to a Korean firm in the middle of the 90s and was bankrupt by the end of the decade. Every year after that, the panels got bigger, the picture got better, and the price fell again. That is what automation does to an object. It grinds the price down toward the cost of the raw materials. But you cannot automate a football game. And that is where the two halves of this story pull apart. For decades, watching meant cable. In 1995, a typical expanded cable package cost around $22 a month. By 2015, it was near $70. By 2022, it had passed $100. Across that whole stretch, cable rose faster than almost everything else people bought, year after year. Now, part of that was sleight of hand. The number of channels grew even faster than the bill, so the price for each single channel actually fell. Customers were not paying more per channel. They were being sold ever larger bundles they never asked for, hundreds of channels stacked up to reach the handful anyone actually watched. You paid for the whole warehouse to get the 3 things on your list. Streaming arrived as the escape from exactly that. When Netflix split its mailed discs from its streaming plan in 2010, the streaming side cost $7.99 a month. For a few years around then, that was close to a miracle. One low fee, and most of what anyone wanted to watch sat in a single place, with no contract and no box bolted to the wall. This was the moment the old bundle looked finished. Why rent the entire warehouse when one cheap key opened the only room you cared about? For a short window, the math genuinely worked in the viewer's favor. And then it began to come apart. It came apart because the companies that owned the shows noticed where the money was flowing. One by one, each studio pulled its catalog off the shared shelf and built a walled garden of its own. Disney spent $71 billion buying most of Fox, then locked that library behind its own service. The films left Netflix. The old shows left Netflix. To follow them, a household now needed the Disney service, and a second service, and a third, and soon a fourth. The single low fee quietly became 5 or 6 fees. And here is the part that stung most for the people who lived through it. Streaming had nearly ended piracy by being cheaper and easier than stealing. Fragmentation brought the frustration straight back. By 2024, the arithmetic had come full circle. The basket of top streaming services a serious viewer needed had climbed to around $87 a month, and that year it passed the average cable package, near $83, that streaming had promised to undercut. The thing built to be cheaper than cable had become more expensive than cable. The room now cost more than the warehouse. To understand why the watching keeps climbing while the screen keeps falling, follow the one cost that never bends: live sport. A television can be built more cheaply every single year, but a football game cannot be produced more efficiently. There is one of each game. It happens once, and everyone who wants it live. So the rights to show it get fought over by every deep pocket at the same moment. The national football rights sold most recently for around $110 billion, roughly 80% more than the deal before them. Basketball's newest deal reached $76 billion, more than double per season. Those fees do not disappear into the air. The biggest sports network alone collects around $9.40 from every cable home in the country each month, whether that home ever watches a single game or not. There is one more turn, and it is the one people feel in the gut. When you buy a film through most of these services, you do not own it. You are renting a license the seller is allowed to revoke. Sony has reached into libraries and deleted movies people had already paid for with no refund because a contract behind the scenes ran out. The ones who threw away their old discs to go all digital found out that the collection they thought they owned was only ever on loan. It is tempting to file all of this under plain greed. But greed does not explain the split. The same companies would happily sell cheap screens forever. Greed does not tell you why the screen got cheaper while the watching got dearer. The split has a structure underneath it. And that structure is now folding back on itself. The services that broke cable apart have started stapling themselves together again. Disney, its second service, and a former rival now sell as a single discounted bundle, with cheaper advertising tiers layered on top, which is the exact shape of the cable package they replaced. The bundle was pulled apart, sold back one piece at a time, and is quietly being reassembled into the thing it destroyed. Step back, and the television stops being about televisions. It becomes a small model of a larger rule. The things people make with machines tend to get cheaper because the machines keep getting better at making them. The things that depend on something, scarce, a live game, an hour of human attention, a library somebody else controls, tend to get more expensive because no machine can multiply them. A flat screen is the first kind of thing. The game playing on it is the second. When both live inside the same appliance, you get exactly what these bills show. The hardware falls while the use of the hardware climbs, and the second number swallows the savings from the first. It is the same pattern that shows up wherever the thing people need is made by fewer hands than the thing people buy. The bundle that was pulled apart is being tied back together. And how long a system holds when the necessary keeps outrunning the manufactured is the open question sitting underneath an ordinary cable bill. So the screen on the wall keeps getting cheaper and clearer and larger every year that passes. The one thing it was ever bought to do, to put something in front of you worth watching, keeps drifting the other way. The box was never the price. The window was.